Hello, my name's Leslie Paton. We're going to start a series today called How to Build an Energy Efficient Home. It's fairly straightforward, it's easy to do, it's common sense, and how to avoid an absolute disaster. So the first thing we're going to talk about, which is essential, is orientation. If you face your house north, that's where you'll get the best advantage of the sun. And keeping your house nice and cool in the summer, warm in the winter, is all about controlling the sun. You want as much sun in the house in the middle of winter to keep it warm. You want no sun, or as little sun as possible in your house in the summer. It's really quite straightforward. It's like if you were sitting in a car in the middle of summer, you had the windows up, it would be so hot, you'd be out of there quick smart, it would be unbearable. Same thing if you were in a cold dark space with no sun in the middle of winter, it would get quite cold. If you were in your car in the middle of winter, windows wound up, sun shining in, it'll actually be quite pleasant. It's just a matter of controlling the sun. So here we go. So in the southern hemisphere, you must, and I repeat, you must face your house north. Due north is best, bit to either side is fine. If you face it due north, that means that you're going to be able to be in charge, or you're going to be able to control the sun. So what you'll do there, in the middle of winter, the sun will be at more of an angle and will shine into those windows that you have on the northern side of your house. And then in the summertime, if you've got the right sized eaves, those eaves will actually put a shadow just outside your walls. And so the intent would be to have as much sun as possible in the middle of winter coming into your house, and then in the summertime to exclude that sun completely. Now, is there anybody there who's ever had a house which faces due west? It's a common mistake, it's a big mistake, it's a disaster. We've got a building development going on in Canberra at present, so that's where we're based. I'm a full-time builder and we specialise in energy efficient homes. But there's a new development going on in Canberra. They've just poured some house slabs, and guess what? The slab is facing, or is going to face the house due west. It is going to be unbearably hot in there in the middle of summer. So don't face your house west. Don't have any windows west. That's the optimum. The same on the eastern side of your house. It's much better if you have minimal windows, better still if you have none. On the southern side of your house, the sun's not going to come in there summer or winter pretty much. It's up for grabs. You can put as many windows in there if you want to. Now we're in this house. This is actually a passive house, which is a high standard of house. We're going to just have a quick look at the windows on the northern side. So as I said, we're in the Canberra region. You do have to build your house to the region or to the climate there. So if you're building a house in Darwin, that would be one thing. We're in Canberra, that's another thing. The same principles apply. Control the sun, exclude the sun in the summer, include the sun in winter. So here we have, this house is in the Canberra region. This house is facing due north. It's November at present, and if you have a look here, there is no sun coming into this house. No sun. In fact, the sun is just outside of this window, so with the right size eaves for the height of these windows, we've designed this house so that from the beginning of November, all December, all January, all February, there will be no sun that will come inside this house. And it's very easy to do. And again, if you ever sat in the car in the middle of summer, windows wound up, you know how hot it is. You get the exact same effect if you allow the sun to come into your house in the middle of summer. Now, you can't see it now, but in this house, if it was the middle of winter, for every metre of window that you've got, you're going to get, in the Canberra region, you're going to get approximately 1.5 metres of sun in on your floor. So here we've got possibly about 3 metres of window. We'll have possibly 5+ metres of sun coming across this concrete slab. It'll warm it up. This house won't get below 20 degrees in a cold winter when it's maybe -degrees outside. In the middle of summer, when it's 30, maybe even 40 degrees outside, you'll probably still be able to stay within 25 degrees in the middle of summer. So orientation, that's number one. Orientation, you must face north. I'll say again, do not face it west. You see it all the time. It's a disaster, and you must avoid it at all costs. Now the second part of doing a really nice energy efficient home that works is making sure that you can maintain the temperature that you want inside the house, summer or winter. How do we do that? By good levels of insulation and making it airtight, etc. We use some principles called passive house, and please look up principles of passive house, because that will actually describe all the parameters that you need to be very conscious of if you're going to have a house that's going to maintain its warm temperature in the winter or its cool temperature in the summer. Because what you want to do is you want to completely isolate the internal space of the house from the external space. If it's too cold outside, you want it to stay warm. If it's too hot outside, you want it to stay cool. So this is what we do. There are 5 points in this. They're the passive house points. The first one is a good or high level of insulation. Under the floor, in the walls, in the ceiling. Insulation to the level that will enable you to keep the heat within the house. So most houses in the Canberra region have got a 90mm wall. It might have what they call an R1 insulation bat in it. By making your walls a bit thicker, you can actually put an R4 bat in your wall. So it doesn't quite equate to 4 times as good, but it is in that order. Insulation under the floor, R6s in the ceiling, and you'll have a good airspace. Now what happens to most houses in Canberra, even with good insulation, even with good orientation, they can be sometimes quite cold. And why is that? Because they're not airtight. You warm up the air inside the house and it blows straight out. You warm up the air again and it blows straight out. Or in the summertime, you cool the air down, it blows straight out. It's replaced with hot air, so it must be airtight. So there's a few things that you can do to maintain that good windows, good building practices. You wrap it up in something like a Gore-Tex wrap. The people who are into passive house will know what that means. And that will enable you to get a very good envelope around you. The third, so that's the second one, is airtightness. The third one is what we call thermal breaks. And what that is, if you've got some materials in the walls, the floor, the ceiling, anywhere in the house, which is going to transfer the inside heat out or the outside heat in. So it's making sure that you don't have materials in the wall which conduct heat through that wall easily, because you'll actually lose quite a bit of heat. We're really saying here that if you look after it carefully, you can get a magnificent result. The fourth one is then you need good windows. On this house that we have here, there is a very thick double glazed panel, and there's lots of different things you can do with glass. It can be just glass, but you can put films on it. You can fill them with different gases. They can be wider, thinner. You can make the glass perform to suit a particular instance that you have it. And that's fairly easy. We won't go into that detail at present. That'll be another presentation. And the frames of these windows, these ones happen to be PVC. Might sound a bit strange having plastic windows, but it's a very good option. They're European based, they work very well, they're highly insulated. It's probably the best window for money that you can buy for a house anywhere in Australia, from the coldest climate in Canberra or worst to up to Cairns and Darwin. So that's very important. So that's number 4. Number 5 is you have now made your internal space so airtight, it's unhealthy. So for those times when you're trying to keep the outside coldness, or it's the inside heat from getting out, or from the outside heat getting in, you want it locked up, you want it airtight, you must have an air conditioning system. But not just any air conditioning system, it's called a heat recovery system. Is what it does is it pulls fresh air in, it pushes the old air out, and it maintains the temperature. It doesn't use much energy, just the fan, but it can transfer the heat that's in the house into the air that's coming back into the house, so you don't lose heat. Or in the summertime, it can transfer the heat in the air that's coming into the house back into the air that's being pushed out of the house. So it's fresh air without losing or gaining any heat. And it's a must. Otherwise, you've gone to the trouble of building a really energy efficient house, and now it's unhealthy. Now that's a simplified explanation of all that. We'll go into that in more detail in more presentations. And then the third one, so it's just the 3 points. The third one is just good general design. Light, so that the house is filled with light and is enjoyable to live in the winter time. You don't want a dark, dingy house to live in winter time. In the summertime, you still want it nice and bright. You want to be connected to the outside. Here's a good example. If you're sitting in perfect comfort inside, you've got a fabulous view in this particular instance outside. You can sit here and there's only an imaginary piece of glass in between you and the outside, and you're sitting very comfortable. And then just other things, bathrooms, living spaces, that just all tuned together, tied together so it works well. Outdoor spaces which actually really work well with your indoor spaces. If you want to eat outside, then really you've got to have a door next to the kitchen, 2 steps out, sit down at a permanent table and you'll use outside. If you've got to go too far, you'll just never use it. So that's where the normal architectural design elements come into their own. So let me just go over it one more time. 3 things, fairly simple. Orientation, it's an absolute must. If you don't get that right, you'll never get anything else out right. You might think you can heat it, you might think you can cool it, it'll be lots of energy and you'll still not ever get the right result. There are lots of houses in the Canberra climate. In the middle of summer, they get so hot, they don't cool down until well after midnight, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You'll get a miserable night's sleep. It'll impact you. Somebody in a well-designed house, it'll be cool the minute they walk into it in the afternoon. They'll have a good night's sleep. It's a whole different living experience. So orientation, then once you've got your house at the right temperature, having your house well built so that it holds that heat or protects you from the heat outside. And then thirdly, just good general architectural designs. So everyone from builders to people who are looking at building a house, clients, I hope that's been helpful. We're going to do some more series. We want everybody to be able to build a good energy efficient home. There's no excuse for it. It's common sense. Everybody from Cairns to Canberra should be building a good energy efficient home, which would be much better than most of the houses that they have on the market now. So I hope that was helpful. We're going to run some more presentations for people who want to get more into the specifics of just how some of those things work. But if you just stick to those 3 things, you're going to have a house that's going to be so much better than the average house. I hope that'll be very helpful. Thank you.